Coroners Court is now sitting.
Today, I will be delivering my findings in the inquest into the disappearance and suspected death of Theo Hayez. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this court sits, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation. I pay my respects to the elders past and present. I would also like to acknowledge Theo's family joining us today from Belgium and Theo's family here in court and friends. Our thoughts are with you all today. I'll now take appearances.
May it please the Court, Your Honour, my name is Edwards. I appear as your counsel assisting, instructed by Mr Harrington and Ms McGee of the Crown Solicitor's Office.
Thank you, Ms Edwards.
Your Honour, my name is Palmer. I appear on behalf of the Commissioner of New South Wales Police.
Thank you, Ms Palmer.
Your Honour, my name is McManus. I appear on behalf of the Hayez family.
Thank you, Mr McManus. The following is a summary of my findings. My full findings will be published immediately after I close the inquest today, and they should be read in full. Theo Jean Hayez went missing in Byron Bay after he left a local bar on the night of the 31st of May 2019. He was 18 years old and had been travelling and working around Australia on a working holiday visa since November 2018. Theo was coming to the end of his trip and had booked a flight home to Belgium from Melbourne in mid-June 2019. Theo's disappearance is a tragic loss of a clever, gentle and thoughtful young man who was universally loved, especially by his devoted family and godparents and his loyal friends. It is obvious from the evidence that he had a bright future ahead of him. Theo arrived in Byron Bay on Wednesday, the 29th of May 2019, and checked into the Wake Up Hostel. He was booked in until Monday, the 3rd of June 2019. He had a bus ticket to travel to Sydney on the 3rd of June and then on to Melbourne on the 4th of June. He was travelling alone at this point, having spent periods of time travelling with Australian-based family, including his cousin Lisa. On the night of the 31st of May 2019, at approximately 9:30 p.m, Theo attended a bar called Cheeky Monkeys, along with 5 other travellers whom he'd met at the Wake Up Hostel. Just after 11 p.m, Theo, who had become separated from the group, was ejected from the bar by security staff who suspected him of being intoxicated or approaching intoxication. That was the last confirmed sighting of Theo, and what happened next remains largely a mystery. While Theo's mobile phone has never been found, Google account data linked to his mobile phone, including GPS location data, reveals that after he left Cheeky Monkeys, he searched for directions back to Wake Up Hostel, but walked instead in the opposite direction to Tallow Beach. Theo stopped at the cricket nets in the recreational grounds for about 7 minutes and then entered Arakwal National Park at the start of the Milne track. He walked along a fire trail, veering off that path and traversing dense bushland to reach Tallow Beach. Once he reached the beach, Theo walked to Cosy Corner at the northern end of Tallows, near the southern foot of the Cape Byron Cliffs. The last available GPS location data places Theo's phone at this location at 12:05 a.m. on the 1st of June 2019. There is user activity on Theo's phone for approximately an hour after this point until 12:56 a.m, showing him accessing YouTube and exchanging messages with friends and family. At 1:02 a.m, the phone loses data connectivity to the network but reconnects again at 6:17 a.m. At 1:47 p.m, on the 1st of June 2019, Theo's phone disconnects permanently from the network. Cellular network data was available for the phone after GPS location data ceased to be recorded. That data was the subject of extensive expert analysis at the inquest in an attempt to determine the phone's location during this critical time. While not as accurate as GPS location data, the data is consistent with the phone being located up on the headland area just north of Cosy Corner in the period after the GPS signal is lost at 12:05 and up until 1:02 a.m. Theo was reported missing to police by his family on Thursday the 6th of June 2019. A large-scale missing persons investigation was conducted by New South Wales Police with ongoing and invaluable support provided by Theo's family, the local community in Byron and the Belgian authorities. Extensive land and sea searches were conducted in the areas all around the Byron Bay headland with a particular focus on Arakwal National Park, Cosy Corner, the surrounding headland and the cliffs to the south of the lighthouse. Despite the scope and scale of the searches, the only trace of Theo that has ever been found is the grey puma cap he was wearing on the night he disappeared. That cap was found by community volunteer searchers on the 7th of July 2019 in Arakwal National Park behind Tallow Beach. There have been no other signs of life from Theo since the early hours of the 1st of June 2019. He has not made any bank transactions and has no other known access to funds. He had no ability to leave the country without his passport, which he left behind at the hostel with the rest of his belongings, and searches of his Telstra SIM card and the IMEI number assigned to the mobile phone show neither were used after the 1st of June 2019. Crucially, Theo has had no contact with his family, with whom he was extremely close, or any of his friends. This is very much out of character for Theo. Theo maintained regular connection to family and friends throughout his travels, and the evidence is that he was excited about reconnecting with them shortly back in Belgium. I have come to the tragic conclusion that Theo is deceased, and despite the extensive investigation and inquest, the available evidence does not enable me to make findings as to the cause or manner of Theo's death. There are, however, two possibilities that I can exclude. Suicide appears highly unlikely on the evidence available to me. There were no relevant factors such as mental health issues or financial stress present in Theo's life. On the contrary, the evidence appears to indicate that Theo was forward-looking, excited about his future and being reunited with his family and friends in Belgium. The possibility that Theo took his own life can be excluded on the balance of probabilities. For similar reasons, I can comfortably conclude that Theo had no reason to intentionally vanish, and he would not have voluntarily separated from his family or left behind his happy life in Belgium. Accordingly, there are two main competing theories as to the reason for Theo's disappearance. The first is that Theo met with a terrible accident while, alone, he attempted to climb from Cosy Corner up the ridgeline towards the lighthouse. The second is that he was with one or more persons when he walked from the cricket nets to Cosy Corner, and that person or those persons caused his death and disposed of his body. According to the accident theory, Theo fell off the cliffs while he was trying to climb up the headland from Cosy Corner to the lighthouse, and his body was washed out to sea, never to be recovered. The ascent to the headland from Cosy Corner is very dangerous, particularly at night, with the other side of the ridgeline made up of steep, slippery and unstable shale. Theo's mobile phone records tend to support the view that he was walking away from the beach and in this direction when he was last heard from. Expert analysis of the cellular location data concludes with a high degree of confidence that sometime between 12:05 a.m. and 1:02 a.m. on the 1st of June 2019, the phone moved away from Cosy Corner Beach and on to the headland, and that it remained in that vicinity until it disconnected from the network at 1:47 p.m. that day. The fact that the phone continued to transmit data for nearly 13 hours after Theo's last messages could suggest that Theo became separated from his phone and that he went into the water without it. The fact that Theo's remains have never been located in the sea or washed up on the coastline does not of itself cast doubt on the misadventure theory. There are at least 2 known cases where people who have gone into the water at Cosy Corner have been swept away and never recovered, despite immediate rescue attempts. The major difficulty with the accident theory is reconciling it with the evidence of Theo's character. Theo was a responsible and cautious young man. It is hard to see any pathway up from Cosy Corner at night at all. It's very dark and obviously dangerous. The family submit that it would be completely inconsistent with Theo's character to attempt something so reckless, particularly alone. Moreover, the theory presumes that Theo, a tourist unfamiliar with the area, had walked alone from the town along an unlit track and through dense bushland in the Iroquois National Park to reach Tallow Beach in the first place. Officer in charge, Detective Senior Constable Parker, told the inquest that he found the walk scary and intimidating when he attempted it alone at night. It is unmarked, extremely dark, and the track can be difficult to find even in the daytime. Even the route that Theo took from the cricket nets to the start of the track was not intuitive or clearly signposted. The final part of Theo's journey through the bushland did not follow any natural path and would have been very hard going. Submissions have been made to the effect that Theo may have been lost and confused, potentially affected by alcohol or drugs. But there is no clear evidence that Theo was drunk, and simply none at all that he was on drugs. Earlier in the evening, Theo consumed an unknown quantity from a 2-litre cask of wine at a barbecue at the Wake Up Hostel. CCTV and bank records show that he had 2 schooners of beer at Cheeky Monkey's. Theo's behaviour in some parts of the Cheeky Monkey's CCTV footage could be seen as consistent with being affected by alcohol, but the footage is equivocal. I'm not critical of the staff at Cheeky Monkey's who ejected Theo because of their training in the very strict legislative requirements relating to intoxicated patrons in New South Wales. But the staff accepted in evidence that there were no clear signs of actual intoxication, as opposed to ambiguous indications that Theo may be approaching intoxication. Importantly, none of the young backpackers who Theo was with that night observed him to be drunk or otherwise behaving strangely, nor did they hear him or anybody else discussing or showing any interest in drugs or parties. Assuming Theo was in his right mind, it is difficult to accept that he ended up at Cosy Corner by mistake. He was a regular and competent user of Google Maps and liked to know his exact location. In fact, his phone data shows that he searched for Cheeky Monkeys on Google Maps shortly after he arrived there. Once he left Cheeky Monkeys, Theo searched for directions to his hostel, and he viewed Google Maps a number of times along his route. So it would have been readily apparent to him that he was going further and further in the wrong direction. Having regard to all of these factors, while I consider it a possibility, I cannot conclude on the balance of probabilities that Theo died by misadventure. The family and some members of the community suspect that there may have been foul play involved in Theo's disappearance and presumed death. They query whether Theo met one or more persons at the cricket nets and walked with them through Arakwal National Park to Tallow Beach. Theo's family have pointed out that he stopped for approximately 7 minutes at the cricket nets. The Google data suggests he walked back and forth in the area and was using Google Maps, although the data is not sufficient to say if he was navigating continuously. It's been suggested that Theo may have met somebody with local knowledge who helped him navigate the streets until the start of the mill track and then walk through the bush to the beach. They note in particular that there was a long-term camp in the bush at the point where Theo sharply deviated off the path and went through dense bushland. And this is where Theo's hat was found. Theo's family have also observed unusual aspects of his behaviour on the beach when he was walking towards Cosy Corner, such as appearing to walk nearer the soft sand on the dunes rather than the water's edge, and entering and climbing the rugged bushland for about 8 minutes. The area surrounding the cricket nets was searched on the 9th of June 2019. Police canvasses were done of the residential areas surrounding the recreational grounds and the youth activity centre, and no information of value was gathered. Leaflets were also dropped in the area by volunteers seeking information about Theo. While there was evidence of gatherings, drug use and minor property theft at this location, Detective Parker gave evidence that the area was not a site of concern for police in terms of it being a known site of violent crime, and it has not been the site of any reported attacks on backpackers or school leavers. No one has come forward saying that they saw Theo with a person after he left Cheeky Monkeys, or that they saw anyone in the area near the cricket nets or near Cosy Corner on the evening of the 31st of May or the early hours of the 1st of June. This is significant given that Theo's tragic disappearance has had a media profile nationally and internationally. Searches of social media posts conducted by community volunteers and those assisting me for evidence of beach parties or tourists on or near the lighthouse on the 31st of May and the 1st of June have not revealed any evidence of utility. Theo's online activity in the period between midnight and 1, which included him watching a clip of a comedy show on YouTube and sending short but light-hearted messages to his sister and a friend, is also inconsistent with him feeling afraid or in any kind of danger. I heard evidence that the random murder of a visiting backpacker in Byron Bay would be unprecedented. And while that doesn't make such an event impossible, there is certainly no evidence that anyone would want to harm Theo, and there is overwhelming evidence that he was a gentle and non-confrontational person. Sadly, there is just insufficient evidence before me to substantiate or exclude either theory at this point in time. During the course of the inquest, the New South Wales Police Force announced that a $500,000 reward would be offered to anyone providing information leading to the resolution of the circumstances of Theo's disappearance. I hope that if there is any further information to be known about Theo's disappearance, the reward will provide a motivation for people to come forward and to contact Crime Stoppers. I now come to the formal findings and recommendations. Having considered all of the documentary evidence, the oral evidence heard at the inquest and submissions, I find on the balance of probabilities that Theo Hayez is deceased. Pursuant to Section 81(1) of the Coroners Act, I make the following findings in relation to the death of Theo. The person who died was Theo Hayez. Whilst I am unable to determine the exact date of death, I find that Theo is likely to have died on or shortly after the 1st of June 2019. I find that Theo is likely to have died in or near Byron Bay, New South Wales. I am unable to determine the cause or manner of Theo's death. Turning to recommendations. This inquest has shown that there are significant legislative gaps, roadblocks and inconsistencies which impede thorough and effective investigation into the disappearance of missing persons. And these problems exist at state, national and international levels. Many of these legislative barriers are inexplicable, and removing them could save lives and help prevent the awful grief of ambiguous loss suffered by Theo's family and many others. Accordingly, I have made a recommendation calling for a comprehensive examination by both state and federal law reform commissions of the various legislative barriers, including gaps in power, which hamper effective missing persons investigations. The inquest has also shown the crucial role played by technology in locating missing people, as citizens increasingly leave an electronic data trail through their everyday life. Police need to ensure that they stay on top of technological developments and disseminate information on how to provide technological tools to New South Wales Police on the ground as quickly and as broadly as possible. I have directed a number of recommendations to the Commissioner of the New South Wales Police Force in relation to obtaining speedy and lawful access to CCTV footage, telecommunications data, data from multinational corporations like Google and Facebook, and apps using location data such as Uber, Garmin, Apple Fitness and dating apps. I have recommended police consider the development of more in-house technological expertise to ensure that technical information can be analysed promptly without dependence on the voluntary assistance of large corporations. I have also called for the adequate resourcing of the investigative review component of the Missing Persons Registry, headed by Detective Chief Inspector Glenn Brown, who gave invaluable assistance to this inquest and whose team continues to work on Theo's case. Finally, I have made recommendations to ensure effective communication between police during large-scale land searches and a recommendation to the peak body, Youth Tourism New South Wales, to develop protocols to ensure missing travellers are reported to the police in a timely manner. This inquest must have been incredibly painful for Theo's family, who travelled from Belgium to be here. They were a powerful presence in this courtroom, and their love and sadness for their loss of Theo was palpable. I again express my deepest sympathies to Theo's family, friends and loved ones. I hope that some small measure of comfort can be taken from the recommendations that I have made in this inquest, with a view to improving how large-scale missing persons investigations are conducted in New South Wales. I thank the Byron Bay community and the volunteers who devoted hours of their time to searching for Theo and supporting Theo's family as they experienced a family's worst nightmare, their loved one missing in a foreign land. I thank the legal representatives for their constructive assistance and thorough preparation. Finally, I thank my counsel assisting team, Kirsten Edwards and her instructing solicitors, James Harrington and Elise McGee of the Crown Solicitor's Office, for their tireless work in assisting me in this inquest. The inquest involved a tremendous amount of work in a relatively short period and in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm grateful for all their efforts. I also extend my thanks to the officer in charge of the coronial investigation, Detective Senior Constable Philip Parker, for his ongoing assistance in this matter. I close this inquest.